From the peak of Saddle Butte to the depth of the LaPorte Slough, this is the Trent Clarenbach podcast. Today's conversation involves three farmers, two brothers from Unity and a buddy from Cut Knife. So from Unity, I have Taylor and Riley Wallace. They farm at Unity, and Justin Kelly at Cut Knife. What these three gentlemen have done is they're combining their farms into a joint venture. So two farms into a joint venture called Fusion Grain Ventures. They're going to capture some synergies. They're going to experience some efficiencies. I really am impressed with the structure and their procedures they've had or they've gone through to make this a success. I think they're setting themselves up for some great success. I'm very excited for them. This conversation provides some insight into what these joint ventures look like, the challenges to overcome, and how to set it up for success. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think you will too.
All right. So you guys, what was the roads like coming back from Moose Jaw?
Better than the way down.
Better than the way down?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, the way down was pretty sketchy, but yeah, better now.
Yeah, that's good. Eh?
Okay.
So you guys here, I was watching on Facebook and I came across this Ritchie Brothers ad. And I thought, what the heck's this all about? And it was for an auction sale. So I dug into it. I saw the Fusion Grain Ventures, right?
Yep, that's right, yeah.
And made a few phone calls, and let's talk about that. You guys are combining your farms. Maybe what we should do, start us off though, let's say who you guys are. I don't know if everybody knows. So you guys are combining your farms into a grain operation. You both, two brothers, farm near Unity. You're more near Cut Knife.
Closer to Cut Knife, yeah.
Closer to Cut Knife. Let's give a little background on each of you, who you guys are, and then we'll dig into, why you're doing what you're doing and how you came about this process. Who wants to start? You want to start, Taylor?
Sure, why not? Yeah, Taylor Wallace, and born and raised in the Unity area, went to school at the University of Saskatchewan, and then after, say, a few years in industry, worked retail and was a chem rep for a bit, and eventually came back to the farm in 2019. Riley, Dad, and I, the farm split from Dad and his two brothers, and we ended up taking the half of the farm that was north of Unity, and the other half is with my cousins west of Unity. And yeah, we've been farming primarily north of Unity since 2019, and kind of brings us to where we're at right now, I guess, the very short story of it.
Yeah. Okay, and Riley, you and I met years ago in the environmental industry.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so I, after high school, went to Lakeline College, Environmental Conservation and Reclamation, and kind of wanted a path that kind of dovetailed with agriculture a bit, but of course at the time in those years, kind of had to beat into you that farming you couldn't make any money at still, so but still wanted that ag background to a degree, so then got into the reclamation industry and graduated in 2005, and your business back then was actually my first interview out of college. I remember that. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, so I don't think it was you that interviewed me. I think it was your colleague, but then ended up just working in a different avenue. The reclamation, went chasing John rigs and whatnot, and then went into other aspects of the reclamation and consulting world, and then in 2018, that's when like Taylor said, kind of saw the path forward for the farming venture and whatnot, and just honestly realized that we actually could make some money at it, and always had it in our blood, and just kind of decided to kind of go all in. So
going all in. I think that's the one way to do it, right?
Yeah.
So 2018 is when you two went full time.
Yeah, well, basically 2018 was the original family was called Scottstown Farms, and that's what it's still called on cousin's side. The first year for our farm was For Freedom Farms was 2019 was the first crop.
Okay.
Yeah, there was just a lot of that. 2018 was kind of the bridge year, and there was a lot of setup going on. I had built a house on a farmyard north of Unity that yeah, that we had acquired and that my dad and uncles acquired in the 90s. And then with no intention really that, well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe in deep in my head that maybe that was going to be a farmyard. And yeah, it turned out that was going to be the home base for yeah, Taylor and my dad for farming in the future. And so 2018 built a heated shop there to kind of prepare and yeah, and that winter started working on the equipment and getting things ready and whatnot for 19. And yeah, it was basically kind of starting over for dad. Well, that's exactly what it was actually. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of, he definitely felt a lot of pressure on him, and we're full of piss and vinegar at the time and just hitting the ground running. But it's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting actually to have Dad give his perspective too, because I mean, we can give you all the, like Riley says, the gung ho and piss and vinegar, and you know everything's going to be great. And I'm sure in his mind he just thought, "Holy shit, here we go!" But you know, he's been a great sport the whole way along. He's done nothing but support us, and he's questioned us a few times, but rightly so. But he's been crucial in what we've been able to do.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's great to have that support and be aligned in your values and your mission. It doesn't always happen with families, right? So it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's
Yeah,
your-
I'm Justin Kelly, and yeah, I farm with my dad, I guess, and now my brother-in-law and sister, and my wife, of course, and yeah. So my story started at the farm, went to university, and in Saskatoon here as well. Did an ag business degree, and I didn't work off the farm. I guess in my summer student years, I worked at Bayer for a couple summers, and yeah, I went right back to the farm and got busy with it. So yeah, we farm about 10 miles from Cutknife, just west of Cutknife, right on Highway 21. Also about 10 miles from these guys. So
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
yeah, so we're pretty close. None of our land overlaps, but yeah, about 4 miles in between us. So
Well, yeah, that's close. That's good.
yeah. So yeah, my dad got the farm from his dad, and yeah, one more generation before that. So it's a family farm, and we have enjoyed it so far. So keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a fair bit of work up in that area. I forget the name of the oil company, but I was doing a lot of pre-disturbance site assessments up there. So I
Okay.
like Adanac, is that close to where you're at then?
More towards these guys.
Yeah, and Adnac's more or less straight east of Unity, just
Okay.
a mile north of the
Oh, you
highway.
guys are west, or you're north of Unity.
North.
Yeah, probably would have been Artemis exploration back.
That's who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot of gas drilling. Yeah, while I was in high school, shortly after. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of the gas boom then. So
Yeah, there's a lot of sites we did up there. And one thing I noticed when I did a lot of work in that Unity area and Luceland, and of course that area around Wilkie, I guess more Wilkie, but Cutknife. I got my towns mixed up here, but so I noticed the difference in the soils from back where the Chad and I grew up, and it's loamier soils. It seemed I did a lot of work up front, north of Unity too. Forgetting the name of the company again, but 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the soils just seem easier to work with than some of that heavier, just solid clay stuff down home. So
It's definitely more loamy for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super forgiving soil. Like, I mean, everybody has a story how they finish seeding in the rain and stuff like that. Whereas I know where you're from, that just would not happen. You know, we could. I remember guys seeding in the rain for like an hour and a half just to get done seeding. You know, and look at friend of ours, Chad, and he would just look at me like, "Are you nuts? Like, that's not even possible."
just wait 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's very forgiving soil. We're pretty fortunate where we farm.
Yeah, and I don't think has there been a crop failure or disappointment up north of Unity?
oh, we get our disappointments, of course.
And that's everybody's definition of failure is a little bit different, I think. But
I know it's always just hearing people go and driving to the lake and back, and how the crops all are just straight north of Unity.
Well, we do hear that from time to time, but
Oh, we get it a lot.
yeah.
People from other areas, commenting, but
But Unity, there's actually quite a variance really when you think about it. Like there's a lot of different soil classes like within 20, 30 kilometers kind of thing. Like you go, straight south of Unity, 10 or 15 miles, and you are into that gumbo heavy clay down there. And then where we grew up, west of Unity, it was more of a clay loam, and then north of Unity is more of a soapy loam, and then you get some sand and whatnot northwest further, and a bit southeast of Unity, and so there's quite a bit of variation really too. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, my family up there is it the Rosemary School where Murray's at?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Down basically just southwest of Unity. Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely lighter soil through there, and
mhm.
then you get getting over in Vera and
You got her.
quite a range. But yeah, I land up there north of Unity. I was shocked how flat it was. I thought you had flat land.
Yeah. You can watch your dog run away for 3 days, like they say. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, there's
interesting.
that triangle land that's pretty consistently flat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you go outside of it. You basically look at the highways that go around it, and go outside of that, and it gets rolly. And
Yeah, I like that. I was impressed when I started working up there. It was nice. So
right.
okay, so I watched that Ritchie Brothers ad on Facebook. Saw the interviews, piqued my interest because I'm always interested in different business structures. I understand the complexities of family working together, and then another, families working with someone else. Partnerships have always been difficult. I had a partnership with family that didn't go as well as any of us would have liked, and I understand the complexities of it. I was scared of partnerships for a lot of years, so I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting. So knowing you guys as I do, I knew a pretty good idea that this wasn't just some idea concocted in the cut knife bar,
No.
Unity bar, right? So it would be set up properly to the best of your abilities. Then I saw the logo. Well, it passed my logo test, right? And I think you can tell a lot by a company logo, and that's my own belief system. But I like that, so that was okay. I'm interested in how this came about. What were the driving forces, the factors that led to this, and just get some understanding of the complexity to facilitate the joint venture, I guess. That was called a joint venture, or
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be up.
yeah. Who wants to start with?
You might as well go.
Yeah, it started at. Well, I guess I've been thinking a lot about scale, and of course we learn a lot at Farmer Coach, where Taylor and I both attend, and we learn, I guess, scale is our equipment sizing, right? Obviously, cost structure is a big thing for our farms, and for a while now I've realized that my equipment's not quite perfectly aligned with the amount of acres I farm, and we have extra drill capacity and maybe slightly extra combine capacity, and then our sprayer we're maximized, and so it's kind of a lumpy area where you either need to go out there and rent more land, or buy more land and be aggressive in the area, or we've found this other solution that allows us to combine our acres and become more efficient, with equipment in one perspective, and and then the other things that fall in line with that as well are the management. I always feel like we're doing what we can, maybe not the best, to get everything done throughout the year. And I think with a team of the three of us and our supporting teams at home, we'll be able to do a better job of that. So yeah, where it all started, we were sitting in Farmer Coach, and we were about to leave after our session, and I just sat down at the table with Taylor here and said, what do you guys think of this? And I think right away Taylor can speak on it, but I think he said it was thought it was a good idea and we should explore it. So since then we've explored it.
Yeah. So what time frame would that have been?
That was in March. We have our Farmer
March.
Coach session 3 times a year, March, July, and November.
Yeah.
So this was after our one in March. And so, right before the going to put the 25 crop in the ground, and we started thinking about this, and it's like, okay, well, so we went out for lunch and talked about it a little bit more, and then I phoned Riley and we talked about it a little bit more, and then kind of both sides went back to their respective families and talked about it before we really got into the nuts and bolts, and talked to the accountants and the consultants and the lawyers and made sure that this wasn't just some crazy idea. Yeah, once we started looking at it, there was a lot of efficiencies we thought we really could capitalize on. And yeah, it's been a lot of discovery of how to make this work. I think we both sides have encountered things we didn't think we would, and then there's been a lot of stuff that made a lot of sense. So it's been a really interesting process even before we get to put the first crop in the ground a few months from now.
I bet it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember doing a business plan 25 years ago for the bank, and limiting factors were going to be labor and efficiency of machinery, capital, right? So yeah, there you. So, and I had a mentor also tell me one time that 2 people can get more than twice done what 1 can do.
Like the Clydesdale horse analogy.
Yeah, well, refresh me on that one.
Well, we just heard it at the Rand's crop marketing conference, actually. And
Yep.
yeah, what 1 Clydesdale can pull 8,000 pounds. So you think 2 can pull 16, but it's actually, was it 24,000?
Yeah, or 26 even, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So you're, 2 really can do more together than, it's not just incremental, it's exponential. So, and I guess, that's kind of how we feel with this too. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and this group, like, it's not just let's put 2 farms together and run them the same way they've been ran before. It's now we have some management that can specialize a little bit in what they're doing and more focus on what they're doing, which is really hard to do at certain sizes. I'd say I don't know what size that has to be for you can get that specialization, but most farms are a one-man show, more or less, right? One man or woman show, and they have to run everything themselves, more or less, from a decision standpoint. And then now with some scale, you can get people specializing so they spend more time doing what they're good at and what they enjoy doing. If you enjoy it, you're going to be better at it, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So now that we can do that, and you have to have some trust so that everybody feels like they got enough leash to be able to do what they can do, that things in theory should run better, run smoother. And I think there's definitely more than 1 + 1 + 1 = 3 there. So
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. That whole idea that, it's a jack of all trades, master of none.
absolutely.
Just
Yeah.
cannot, you might be a great mechanic, but you might not be great at some of the agronomy. So you just don't have the capacity, the time, or I would say the mental capacity to do everything to the best of your ability.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, growing up, 30 years ago or whatever it was just whoever's in the field first and then the longest, well, they were the most successful and the best mechanic and whatnot. And the industry's just completely changed. So,
It's not that anymore, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the scale of it. Even when I was operating farming, I had 2 guys in town, machinist and mechanic, and I relied on those guys to fix my equipment. Right,
Yeah.
it wasn't my forte; it was my strength, and you do things that, I'm sure you guys have identified those steps in that process too. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the operations now, even if they haven't gotten to the point where they can employ those people directly, have gotten really good at outsourcing a lot of that. Maybe they do rely on the dealership more for all their service, or they work with grain marketers more, or stuff like that. I think maybe our generation's a little bit more open to that as versus being just a one person show. So I think that has come around, but I think we do have complementing skill sets. So I think that fits really well.
Well, and I even learned in my environmental company that, the head down, ass up mentality works to a point, but you cannot scale a business doing that.
No, that's right. You got to have people underneath of you, and we do what we're good at, and hire the positions that we're not good at or that we don't have time for, and I think that's a big part of scaling a business.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most important part, actually.
Yeah, find people that are better than you to do a job that you're not that good at.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my experience. I once I stepped away, I found people to do things they're actually better at
Mm-hmm.
than
Yeah.
I was. And then I did that merger, and I was afraid of partnerships because I had a bad experience. And then I entered into one with the merger of my company.
Yep.
And I just recognized right then there that there's three of us, and there's support in the decision making. It's not just you on an island making this decision. There's feedback. There's a difference of opinion. There's strength, and you can actually you have the ability to scale your business with a partnership. With an individual, it's extremely difficult, I think.
It's challenging. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Now the stress is shared, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and this,
Yeah.
it's kind of, it actually also forces us to really run this like a true business. Because I mean, just like any other farm, like, you know, Taylor and us, we've been expanding and buying land and trying to rent land as much as we can. And then, you know, you take on 1,000 acres a year and you don't really change what you do, right? It's just like, it's just an extra, whatever, 2 days of seeding, 3 days of combining, whatever it is for spraying and whatnot. But, you know, when we're joining two kind of similar sized farms together, it really forces your hand to, okay, we got to really change our processes and whatnot. And then being able to take on 5, 10,000 acre packages isn't going to be such a big of a deal as the plan. So,
No. And you guys have been in Farmer Coach for a few years now, right?
4.
4 years now?
Yeah.
So you have that background of that understanding of how to structure a business and what tools to use to manage it properly. So you're not coming in this.
You got a network that's trying to figure those things out as well. So it's yeah, maybe we have guys that we can lean on or, you know, support in that group as well. So
And
Yeah.
just seeing how they've been able to structure their business, and you know, there's a lot of different ways to do that, but the key, the common denominator is finding good people and making sure that those people are supported in what they're going to do. The only way to scale is with good people.
Yeah.
And so you gotta be able to find those people, get them into the business, and let them do what they're good at.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think too, with your experience in Farmer Coach, and I haven't been through the program, I really know
Mhm.
just really know just what I see on social media, right?
Yeah.
Discussions. So having that background though tells me that the vision's aligned, the understanding of what's required is aligned. The concepts are not new to any of you
right.
because you've been practicing some of them on your farm, maybe all of them.
Yeah.
He just came off the back of you just came into this blind or back of a horse or whatever.
Yeah.
Term cowboys might not like that one, but if you didn't have an understanding or background in this, and all of a sudden you're entering into partnership without understanding of a structure, what's required, that'd be
Yeah, no, it's it would be a lot different if, you know, one of us believed in all these processes and having, you know, this is how we treat employees and this is how we, you know, do X and then one of us was just like, I don't really think that's, you know, what I think, or, you know, then it wouldn't work, right? And so it just really showed us that our visions do align, and how we want to run a business is very similar, and there is a possibility there. So
yeah, I think it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that, you know, you might have two very successful farms that they can't do something like this, even if they wanted to. Just, you know, like I said, there's multiple different ways to skin that cat, right? You need to have similar visions to put stuff together so you can even work together and run a good operation. So we're fortunate we went down this road, and I'm not going to say that there's been zero differences, but I mean, we've been aligned more than enough that, you know, we think we can do a good job at this and make it work. So.
Yeah. When you guys, so when you guys, we're all educated here, right? When you guys started in Farmer Coach, or, you know, you've taken some PD as I have in the past, do you when you entered a farmer coach, were those new concepts to you, or do you have this idea that this is something where am I going with this? When I started Grassland, I took over Grassland, the company, I realized how much I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I realized that very quickly.
Yeah.
HR is one of them, simple management structure, because I was just part of that. I was running a farm from the seat of my pants, right?
Yeah.
I spent a lot of money, a lot of time learning structure and process and a lot of the same thing I think you guys are learning and you're consultants. What was it like? I guess, why did you join a consulting service to get a help with the management side? Did you realize, as I did, there's things I just don't know here, or what? Or did you know all these things and just
No.
put them free one?
No, for me, it was, the realization that, I've come into this business and my dad's given me the opportunity to use his capital and provide a start for me and now my sister and her family. And it was the realization that you're managing a big company and really have no experience, other than the years that we've put in so far. But for me, that was the biggest thing was, I'm very literate in some areas and then in some areas of management, I have, no idea what I'm doing, need some help. And I think for me, that was, it's, my dad's always said, you need to take these development courses to get better than you are today. So yeah, decided, well, we're managing this big family business and, I'm responsible that I don't lose it for my whole family, and that's a big deal. So,
Yeah.
so let's go try to be better and move forward.
Yeah, I think I found the same thing at Farmer Coach. Like, and then they'll tell you, like Evan and the staff there, that what they're presenting to us as farmers is not revolutionary information. It's stuff that businesses in other industries do all the time. It's just farming has developed its way in Western Canada in such a way that a lot of these things haven't been implemented yet, or at least not to scale. So we're not, we're taking a lot of things from other industries like org charts and career path, and a lot of them are HR things, but business structure and just how to implement them back on your operation so it can be successful. And, think about that scale in mind when you start building these things, because I think a lot of times farms grow where the growth is in acres, but then also the growth on the HR side or the planning side maybe doesn't keep up to the same speed. So eventually that comes to a head. And usually it's because, from what I see, the guys who are the ones responsible for all the decision making and the cash flow and all that sort of stuff, all the big decisions, the stress eventually gets them, and that's can be a really hard thing. And I mean, now that we were dealing with farms that are worth tens of millions of dollars, and there's hundreds of $1 million in farms out there, and just the amount of stress that puts on one person is huge, and then you get into tight years where all of a sudden now cash flow on top of all the decisions is becoming a concern. Well, that can break a lot of people.
Yeah.
So forward planning, just to make sure you don't get into those situations, is critical.
Yeah. Try to see what's coming down the pipe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, in the HR topic, and I've talked about this before, but I repeat myself often. Like, something's been significant to me, but one decision I made in my company was, how much am I willing to invest and compensate these individuals to make my life easier?
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of putting the cart before the horse there, but there was no regrets.
No, you never will have regrets training people or
Or yourself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we're all trying to figure out how to buy our own time back and whatnot too, right? So,
Yeah, the older you get, the more aware you are of your mortality and how much time he has left, right? So it's
yeah.
it's interesting. So I got a group in Saskatoon. We get together once in a while, and it's supposed to be once a month. A couple of farmers are in that group, and they're having trouble getting away from their business for this afternoon.
Yeah.
One afternoon a month.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter if it's, I can understand seeding, I can understand harvest, and I struggle with November. I really struggle with December.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of myself when I started, I took over grassland. I was farming, or I joined Entrepreneurs Organization in Saskatoon. And this stressed the hell out of me because we'd have a 3-hour forum, we called it, in the afternoon. I'd drive to Saskatoon, be on the phone, try not to email, go for lunch, get caught up on my emails, go to forum, take a break halfway through, respond to what I needed to,
Yeah.
and then immediately once we're done at 5, and like it was ridiculous. Like I actually thought about hiring someone to drive me to Calgary or make
Yeah.
sales calls and stuff, or Saskatoon.
Yeah.
And then I realized I joined EO, and I realized these guys are running these businesses far larger than mine, and they're going to Palm Springs, they're going to Phoenix, and they're doing whatever. And
Enjoying life.
yeah, there's got to be a way. So then I figured out how to do that, and yeah.
Well, and we're kind of figuring that out too now. Like even with us, like what we're doing here, I just kind of actually thought, well, we're just repeating what, our family went through 6 or 7 years ago. And it's like, we got this fresh in our minds and everything, and just do it over again. Well, no, it is quite a bit different when it's, non-family members and whatnot. You really got to set up the structure properly and everything, of course.
Yeah.
But so the amount of time we've been spending in prepping and meetings and everything, and in the meantime, all the work still has to get done, of course. And
Yeah.
at least-
To say, oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And just with us coming together, I mean, the synergies, Justin's got a good manpower base and whatnot, and we've been utilizing that big time because we haven't hauled any grain ourselves since harvest. So,
Yeah.
and of course, just like everybody, we got contracts going out and whatnot. So thankfully, we're already utilizing our synergies. We've got some floating done, whatnot, and it's allowed us to do the proper work here to set things up. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I think that's so important. Yeah, you want to be able to go to the hockey practice or the track event. You want to go to
Yeah, you gotta have I think that when you're referencing your farmer friends there that are having trouble getting away, it's because they, most likely don't have either the big enough size to justify having a structure below them, or they just haven't set up the structure. And so they're, probably doing all the work. And I think that's where we've been in the past too, and are trying to get away from that because we see the value. And, not only does it let us do what we want to do, either in the business or outside of the business, go to the kids' sporting events or just being at home on a Saturday or whatever it is, right? We also have that desire for the people that work for us as well, that, if one of our operators needs to go, it's no problem, because we want that. We want that for them. We want it for ourselves. And I think that's a big thing about the whole HR structure, is having that flexibility. Everyone is enjoying their time. They have their proper time off, and yeah.
shout out to my buddy. He told you there, Chris Thaker gave me some advice one time about he's been just a great employer, and he's just been great with people. And he said, if that person doesn't want to be there, I don't want them here.
yeah,
And that-
absolutely.
And if they'd rather be at that recital or,
Yep.
or parent teacher interviews, whatever that is, they need to be there because
Yeah, and we need to. That's the other thing in ag too. We just got to realize that we're competing with every other industry around us, and everybody has a life and wants a life and a career path, and the days of hiring a farmhand and a hired man. It's like, no, that's kind of gone. Like we got to hire employees and think about retirement plans, and just like any other industry, benefits, whatever it is, right? So
But yeah, you won't, like when I was farming my hired man, he loved moose hunting, so he'd take off in September for a week during harvest. And I was questioned on this. Why are you letting him do that? Well, he wants to hunt. That's his, like, I want him there in August and I want him back there a week from now.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you can survive that week.
I'll figure this out somehow.
Yeah.
And it's,
If you didn't let him do that, it would end up costing you him, because that's, you know, something that he really enjoys. And
and I wanted him in seeding time. I wanted him next week when he got back, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that week of productivity you lost to him going hunting, you more than gain that back in his productivity when he was there. You know, and I think another big thing, you know, and it probably more applies to the management, is I think a lot of the management on farms has real tough time leaving and taking that time off because of guilt.
Yeah.
I think it's more guilt than anything. It's just, well, if my staff are working, if they have staff or their family members, I got to be out there too. And it's, even if everybody else there is probably like, what are you doing here? Like, we've made this time, you've built this crew. If you need to get out of here, get out of here. But a lot of people, myself included, I find it hard too. I think most farmers do. It's really hard to step away when the busy jobs are happening. So I think getting comfortable with that is maybe something, maybe that's a lofty goal. Maybe comfort's a lofty goal, but at least being able to do that and step away in those busy times to do things you need to do, I think is an important thing to realize.
I agree with you 100%. You know, with this identity that we have to work hard, that's our identity. And you know, it's work. When you can leverage other people, give people autonomy to make decisions, empower them and train them or give them the tools to be successful, you find that you actually make greater profits. That was my experience. And people want autonomy. They really want to make a decision. They really don't want us over looking their shoulder all the time. And they'll just rely on us if they're there. Hey, Taylor, what should I be doing? And whereas if you weren't there, they'd make those decisions. So.
Yeah, that's right.
You're better off to say, I have this task and handle it, and you know, have that structure in place that they don't have to ask you.
Yeah, make it safe to ask. Make it safe to ask and bring problems to you. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
So on that topic, so when I did that merger with my friend or my buddy there, it was very important to me to have a system in place, like an agreement in place for conflict resolution, because there's going to be some at some point. We didn't, but I shouldn't say that, but there needs to be a process to facilitate that, because at the end of the day, you still want to go and have a beer together or meet each other at the rink or whatever, right? So what is that? You guys would probably spend a bit of time on that, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, through Farmer Coach, Evan's business there has a few different branches. We worked with Maverick, that side, the consulting part of it, to go through one of their planning packages when we started going down this road. And a big part of that was, you know, decision making and conflict resolution, and which is, in my opinion, that's probably one of the biggest issues and one of the biggest topics you should cover, because not everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows the whole way through. You need to figure out how to get through these decisions and do it effectively and make sure that you can get through it and with a point that everybody's still moving the same direction. So we walked through that, and without getting too far into the nuts and bolts of it, is like, how big is the decision? Whose responsibility is it? Who has authority to make the decisions? And when does it need to be, you know, just that person? When does it need to be majority, or when does it need to be unanimous? And, you know, and if you can't come to an agreement to meet those certain criteria, then what do you have to do to get there? So we did walk through a lot of that. And I mean, there's a difference between walking through and actually living those situations, but we've all known going into this now that there is those mechanisms there, so that when those big decisions do come up, we know that there's a structure to walk through it.
Yeah.
We have the framework set so that, you know, when that issue does come, that we have a process that we can follow, and you know, how do we get to that resolution without ending in this joint venture splitting, right? I mean, it's what we don't want to happen, but we also realize that it is probably one of our biggest risks working with the non-family.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, family fights enough.
Yeah.
What's holding us back from fighting? And so I think, you know, proper planning and structures.
Yeah, and then properly to exit or dissolve if that event ever happens.
Yeah, of course there is a plan B. It's just for all of us, plan B is very far down the totem pole.
Yeah.
Like we want to make sure that, you know, we're gonna use this structure as best we can to get this this JV to where it needs to go. Obviously, yeah, if something comes up that's unresolvable, then I guess that's there, but that's not the intention at all.
If you
So,
plan properly and structure this
Yep.
decision tree, I guess you might say, or this framework, it just increases the likelihood of success and longevity. doesn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even from our side, I mean, between Taylor and myself, of course, yeah, brothers, you know, we argue and fight from time to time, but just like I tell people, it's also our biggest strength because we are different people, and the three of us are also different people. We have different viewpoints, different mannerisms, whatnot, and we've always known that we could do more together than we ever could apart, and that's also the driver of this, of course.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just having those aligned goals to know that, you know, the end does justify the means in a sense. So
So you guys you've identified different strengths amongst the three of you then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we each have our strengths, and we're splitting up the roles, you know, accordingly, and put people where they, like you said earlier, enjoy what they're doing and are good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, you sure don't want to be doing the things that you hate and you're not good at.
Yeah.
and that's not a good
You know,
be for success.
first off, you hate it, but
Yeah.
secondly, you're not going to do it well, and
And you'd be resentful.
yeah. And if there's those things that none of us are good at, well, hopefully we're, you know, yeah, subbing it out, or employees doing it, or another family member.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's this coach I had one time. It was 4 different. This process had 4 different quadrants for personality types, I guess, strengths and weaknesses, and
Yep.
And he said you really don't want everybody in this, all your partners in the same. Not everybody can be in that same quadrant.
Right,
have the
yeah.
same. And so what I recognized, I did that after the fact, but I could certainly see that with my partners and Medicine Hat. There's different strengths and amongst all 3 of us. It was great to see.
Yeah, and we still fully know that we don't have the basis covered entirely too. So I mean, we're still leaning on our professionals where we need to be as well. And yeah, it's kind of knowing what you don't know is more important than what you do know sometimes. So
That's the awareness of what you don't know is so important. I say the older I get, the less I know, because I thought I knew more than I did.
oh yeah, we all thought we knew everything at 25 years old, and I was no different.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's reassuring then.
More confident than when we were younger. Yeah.
Okay, that's reassuring. Yeah, it's so I think what you'll probably find, and you guys have probably gone down this path greater depth than I have, but I don't think there's an end to it. I think you just keep peeling back the onion and discovering a new area of growth. And
I hope so. It's you know, I actually think there's opportunity in this JV, in the sense that, you know, someday I'm not farming, it's my kids, they can be a part of it, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe my kids are not part of it, but you know, inside of the business, but they have ownership in it.
yeah,
And you know, everyone's talking about farm succession and how hard it can be, and I think this is a mechanism that can make it easier. And yeah, I think it's a big part of it, right? Like, you know, all of our kids aren't going to farm, but we also see the value in farming and what we are doing, and it could lead into a possible solution for some of that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think good structure will alleviate a lot of the problems with transition planning.
yeah, right.
It will, you know, a farm that has to be bought and sold every 30 or 40 years gets stymied for growth because of that transition. And also too, maybe you're pigeonholing somebody into something that they weren't necessarily planning on doing. And, you know, if we structure this in such a way, and, you know, like Justin says, he's got 2 girls, I got 2 boys, you know, maybe none of them want to farm, or maybe some of them want to be lawyers or whatever. It's like, well, you want to be a lawyer, that's great. Go be the best damn lawyer you can be.
Yeah.
Come work for the farm. We need lawyers. You know, maybe they're not working for the farm every day, but you know, I want to give you the opportunity that you can do whatever you want, and the farm is going to help fund that in some way, shape, or form. So if you want to be an astronaut, we'll figure out how you can be an astronaut. But you know, to just see that the only way that a farm can help the family through farming, I think is a little short-sighted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we've all seen, you know, people that we grow up with that, you know, weren't maybe meant to be a farmer in that definition of a farmer, but, you know, with what we're doing here, like Taylor said, yeah, if you want to be an accountant or a lawyer, well, yeah, we're talking to them constantly right now. So there is an avenue for them, maybe not as a traditional farmer in the sense, but to be part of the business going forward. It just opens up that many doors for more individuals to come be a part of the business. So
maybe we'll get some preferential billing rates out of them too.
Yeah, you need an accountant and a lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So a book I read years ago was Thomas Dean's book, Every Family's Business. You guys read that book?
No, I haven't read that one.
Basically, here's what I remember from reading it 15 years ago is, you know, the next generation kind of got the previous generation assisted the next generation with doing their own thing. Like they had, the example they used was the next generation doesn't necessarily want to be in the gasoline business or gas station business or the farming business, right? They might want to be in the law, doctor, astronauts, who knows, right? But if you facilitate that, that's the answer. That's the key to, because really you can get shoehorned into a position or a career. Like I know a lot of people who don't enjoy farming.
oh yeah, we talk to them all the time. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people in jobs and various jobs, like very few people I think really enjoy their job they have. I think no, that's sad, really.
Yeah, you spend how many hours of your day are doing what you're paid to do? Like, you know, to spend that many hours, and then everybody says, well, it's a job. You need a job. You got to pay the bills somehow. Well, that's great and all, and you're right. You do need to pay the bills, but wouldn't it be so much better if you actually enjoyed what you were doing? And you're going to do a better job of it too.
Yeah.
So find something you enjoy doing. That's how you pay the bills, and you're going to make sure that you're going to be the best damn person you can at that job. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Every morning I'm the market guy on our farm and our joint venture here going forward. And even this morning I look forward to opening up my computer and putting in my earpods and listening to the latest market podcasts every morning.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoy it and look forward to it every day. So, I mean, if that's how you're going into your business, you are going to succeed, I believe. So
Gets you up in the morning.
yeah.
Would you be that excited if you had to head out to the shop? Your job was first thing in the morning, go out to the shop and drop the oil and the.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, we're all capable of doing that stuff, but it's just not something me personally that I get a lot of satisfaction out of, you know? So it's, yeah, it's just knowing what you really get that satisfaction out of is what's going to drive you. So
Yeah. I saw an announcement on LinkedIn here recently, and without getting into details, it was a implement dealer, and they just announced their new CEO. I think he was. I recognized the name wasn't the same as the family that owned the implement dealer, so I thought I wasn't shocked at that, but I found that interesting. Is just because you have the name doesn't mean you're necessarily it's the right time for you, or maybe you might not be the right person for that, might have the skill set for that role, right?
Yep.
And if you look at a lot of the super families, by the time we get to the third generation, often it's someone else leading the company or some of these different roles, right? So
I think in the successful ones, definitely.
yeah,
Because, you know, like you say, like that knowing what you don't know or knowing what you're not good at, maybe maybe you're better off hiring that CEO, and that's better than, you know, maybe the kids, the next generation, maybe they're board members, and they all realize that, hey, you know, this is a person who is going to do a better job leading our company and our family's company than we can.
Yeah.
And that's just better. So, and I think in the long run, you know, if that's a vision that we all see for this as well, and I mean, that's maybe a long ways out, but, you know, maybe that's where, if our kids don't want to farm, maybe they are board members or whatever this happens to turn into, and they just an advisory role, and they still have their own career, and you can put somebody in to run the operation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to put that. You got to check that ego at the door, and all the founders and startups, they're great to a point, right? You might be a good founder, might be a good operator.
Yeah.
But I know myself, I have limits on how far I could grow a company.
Mhm.
Like I just realized, remember, I don't have what it takes to get this to the next level.
Yeah.
And you think you can until you kind of realize that there's some missing pieces here, right? So, but to identify that and accept it is,
It's hard to accept it. You know, you want to take it to the moon, right? But if you're not the guy for that job, you gotta be able to know it, and that'll let you put someone in place that is, and take it there.
Yeah, and I think there's a big difference between, you know, whether it's a founder or somebody who comes in to run the already operating company. You know, like a founder CEO is somebody who's super aggressive, doesn't take no for an answer, has a belief and a vision that, you know, they're willing to do anything to see it through. And then maybe the next step after that company is established is a CEO or somebody who can optimize what they're doing. You know, it can look back through their operations and see how things are different and how they can do things differently and structure what they're doing better. So recognizing people's strengths for the position that business is at. You know, you might need two different people at two different stages of the game, right?
well, Apple, I think, could be an example of that, right? You have Steve Jobs left, came back, did his thing at Apple, innovated, created these great innovations. But he passed. They had Tim Cook was next.
Tim Cook, yeah.
And he was an operations guy. And he's added more value to Apple than Steve Jobs did, which is, you know, it's a lot that's built on Jobs, but nonetheless, right? It's
Yeah.
No, it's incredible when you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
sometimes you need a, you know, wartime CEO and
Yeah.
the term they use. And
Yeah. You know, when you see, it was the guy who was it Hunter Harris for the rail lines in Canada and stuff like
Right.
that, spent time at both CN and CP. You know, certain situations call for a certain type of people, and they're not really transitional. And I find, you know, you'd mentioned before about our coffee shop, and like a lot of people get a real charge out of starting something and getting it going, as versus just, you know, taking something and operating it.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we found with the coffee shop. It's not that we didn't enjoy operating it, but the real charge was getting it going and seeing something just all of a sudden come into fruition. And that was something that, you know, you went and put in something that didn't exist before, and all of a sudden it's there. And, you know, there's that was the greatest joy out of that. So
that's interesting you say that, because I always find the pursuit of something is almost more enjoyable than the destination.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I reached a financial goal one time, and I realized that, and it just felt like it gets over, right? like it was something changed, and I can't can't really explain why it's rational, you know?
Yeah.
But there was, okay, well, all right, now what do we do, right?
Yeah. What'd you do? Did you extend your goals, or?
Yeah, well, I shifted them, I guess.
Yeah, I should.
yeah.
I freed up some space to do different things. So
Yeah.
I think that's where just me personally, that's where I'm kind of just coming into my own as a person and just realizing, you know, kind of always chasing that next best thing or best venture. And, you know, whether we're looking to build bins, buy more land, rent more land, And then this year actually kind of looked a little boring, and now it's definitely not boring. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's just being kind of true to yourself and honest to yourself, and just realizing what kind of gets you up in the morning and drives you. And,
Yeah.
and for me, it's not just, it's not making as much money as possible, but it's just growing our business and doing the best we can is kind of really just what drives me personally, anyways.
An adventure, yeah.
Yeah,
Can I make a bold prediction?
absolutely.
I'd love to hear it.
So I think in about 2 or 3 years, you guys are gonna have this thing dialed in. Coffee maker, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna have this thing dialed in. And I don't know if you're gonna find the same level of satisfaction of building more bins.
Yeah.
More acres.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might not, but we're also thinking of diversification and whatnot as well, right? Hell, I was thinking about buying a grocery store. Like, I mean, you could buy a grocery store for the same as 2/4 of land now. So, like, it's just thinking about outside the box here, right? And our base is, of course, in commodity production, really, and
Yep.
the best way to, the way people survive in commodity production is how efficient can you be and how low cost can you be? And that's at the base of it, right? But yeah, getting beyond that and diversifying the business, I think hopefully within 2 or 3 years, maybe when building more bins and whatnot isn't what drives us and whatnot, but maybe we're in different business legs and whatnot that support, times like we're going into of lower commodity prices. So
Yeah, and I think the fact those ideas can have become a reality, or they certainly have the capability of coming to fruition
Mm-hmm.
when your core business isn't reliant on one individual or two individuals in your situation, right?
That's right.
Like you'll get these in about 2 or 3 years, you'll realize that, okay, we have some more capacity here to look at a grocery store and diversify somewhat, right? It could
Yeah.
be, who knows what that's going to be in 2 or 3 years.
oh yeah, whether it's a
Yeah.
electrician company, a plumbing company, like, we start looking at all these businesses that we hire, number one, and it's like, how can we be a part of that? We've already talked about, construction equipment and whatnot, and how better to utilize, some of that stuff. So,
Well, there's area on that topic, and I forget her name. I get her email once in a while. Cody Sanchez, maybe small business. She does always promoting
Okay.
small business stuff on
Okay.
all over social media. But anyways, she talks about, and Kevin and I, Haggis and I referenced it in our conversation too. All these, there's such an extraordinary and high number of businesses of people willing to exit the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge is finding, like, having an exit plan. And that exit plan is, they're profitable businesses.
Yeah.
But if you're in your 20s or your 30s, you may not have the capital.
Yeah.
So there's so much opportunity out there with capital.
I think that's important too, is actually having a business that we could actually sell too. Like, it needs to be saleable to some degree, or what's it actually worth? You know? And it's
Value
just,
the assets.
yeah, it's just the value of the assets like any other farm. So if we can actually prove a real business that we're managing and that's saleable, well, that's value.
Yeah. Like, even if the intention is to never sell, the business should be built to sell.
Yeah. I use that term lots. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if it's not built to sell, then it's probably built around you.
Yeah.
And if you take you out of the business, because eventually you will be out of the business,
Yeah.
then what do you have? You have assets.
I remember I was getting courted by an environmental consulting company. I'll talk about this again. It's my best experience in business, but we're sitting in my boardroom in Kinnersley. A fellow from Calgary, gentleman from Calgary, said to me, "Is grassland Trent? Trent grassland?"
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting there and I said, "I want to say it's me," but it wasn't me. That Dina was running it. I was doing some sales.
Yeah.
And trying to invoice. That was all I was doing.
He probably liked that.
And I said, "No, it isn't me." And I had systems in place. And you guys are be in a similar situation for your industry. I had systems in place that engineering firms didn't have, or my competitors did not have them. People coming to partner and
Right.
purchase didn't have them, and there was value there because it wasn't relying on me. And then when I did the merger, they didn't want me, and I didn't want it. I made it perfect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wanted. I didn't want to be there either, right? So it's good. We had to get to that point, so there was some
Yeah.
value there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, this is fun. I really enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, the points you guys make really align with a lot of my beliefs, and I'm excited for what you guys are doing. I think this is excellent.
You know, every day that goes by, I just get more and more excited. Yeah, the wheels
Yeah,
keep
we are.
turning.
Oh,
Yeah.
you'll be able to do so much more, the three of you, than
Yeah, that
Ellis Brothers or you on your own, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
just-
yeah, that's the whole goal. I mean, yeah, efficiencies and just economic units of the equipment and labor and stuff, that those are super important things you have to keep in mind when you're building the business. But I think the biggest benefit is what the management team can do once they're given the reins in their own area to really expand what they're doing. And I think that's where all the value, not all the value, I shouldn't say that, but I think that's where a lot of the value is going to come from.
yeah, and in getting control of your time. That's
Mhm.
if you can put those and get those people in places and the systems for to succeed, and you guys probably have SOPs or developing them for your,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they come, yeah.
like, here, I need a combine operator. Well, here's your
Here's how to do
book,
it.
Trent.
Yeah.
And see, and I could probably figure it out by reading, right? You know,
Yeah.
or, like, and if you can do that, then you you start freeing up your time.
Yeah, I mean, even on SOPs and stuff like that, Farmer Coach, like, they showed us you can build your own private YouTube channel, and then you go out and you start making YouTube videos about how certain things should be run, and then you step in a tractor. How do I turn this thing on, or which hydraulics or whatever? Oh, there's a QR code on the corner of the window. Scan it with your phone, takes you to the right video, and wait. Like, there's little things that other people have thought of all the way along to manage all these problems. Like, that was a huge plus of that program, was just, these aren't new problems. They're just new problems to you.
Yeah.
Find out how other people have dealt with them, because they've worked through the whole process of how to make this work. So there's no reason why you need to suffer the same way they did. So
When we implemented, is a painful process implementing SOPs, but when we started doing that, people went to the field with the right tools.
Yeah.
They took photographs in the right order and they were labeled properly.
Mm-hmm.
The efficiency is gained in the field, the efficiency is gained in the office. It was unbelievable. I had no idea.
Everyone's doing things the same way instead of,
Yeah.
you know, I do it this way, you do it that way, and then they get back to the office and it's no good, right?
Yeah, we'd get contractors who are super
Yeah.
qualified send in their data.
Yeah.
And it was like people processing. It was like pulling their hair out. Like, okay, what does this mean? What, it's because it wasn't our system, right?
Yeah.
The efficiencies. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. So if you can just slip someone in a seat.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
that's your goal, really, isn't it?
Or easily train them, right?
Yeah.
Have the processes in place, and
yeah, and I think to just limit yourself to hiring farm kids from Saskatchewan or whatever. You can get a lot of good operators or a lot of good technicians on your farm who come from completely different industries.
Yeah.
And as long as you can train them in a reasonable way, then you have way more opportunities to hire people than just making sure you get that farm kid who's ran a combine before.
So, and you've probably seen it yourself, Trent, that sometimes you're better to take a complete green ore and train them how you want than it is to take from somebody that thinks he knows everything because he's worked 4 or 5 years in the business and has his notions or his or her notions about how to do things. So sometimes it is better just to look outside of your own backyard. And
Yeah.
so,
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm a firm believer that there's that opportunity and possibility. A buddy of mine in high school, he was a talent kid, right?
Yep.
But he came out, actually drove our combine before I did. Steve didn't trust me, I guess. But anyways, so Connor was in the combine, and the rule was, you don't listen to the radio, right? Like, kids running older equipment, and
Yeah.
you know how it is. You guys have done it. You can hear those. You can hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a pitch that changed.
Something's going wrong.
You
Yeah.
tell something's not right. And Connor, no experience, like no experience. He could understand and hear the bearing going on that 860 combine.
Yeah.
The radio on, he might not have, but he was.
Mhm.
He didn't think he knew everything, that he could listen to the radio and operate the machinery. So he just followed direction, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Did what he was told, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that gives you the opportunity to hire on attitude as versus hire on, what technical skills they bring to the table too. So I think you're better off hiring on attitude and training as versus definitely the technical skills. But
That was my approach. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, hiring the person rather than the letters behind their name or the education that they have is usually works out better, I think.
Yeah, and how they fit in with the rest of your team, and
Mhm.
My approach was this, and I don't recommend, I think there's better systems to use, but I'd go for lunch and decide, would I want to go for a beer with this person? Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we hired mostly, like, when we were busy hiring, mostly, ladies and stuff, but, if the vibe wasn't there, it wasn't going to be a good fit. And I think it's better, more sophisticated hiring methods, but
Oh,
really, you don't,
it makes a lot of sense though. You got to work with these people, and they got to work with you, and
Well, yeah, and that's kind of how this started too, because we were very good friends before this started, and none of us want that to change, of course, either too. We all know there's going to be bumps in the road and whatnot, but it's being able to have those uncomfortable conversations, and at the end of the day, we can go home and not be mad at each other, and still go on trips together and still enjoy life. So
being able to separate work and outside relationships is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to talk about work all the time.
no, and I think being that now, it's still very much a family business, but it's two families. I think having that kind of, now it's more of a formal coupling of businesses made us realize we need that proper structure, and it gives us more opportunity to make sure that we deal with things appropriately. Whereas, family farms, it's pretty easy to let things slide, or you have an uncomfortable conversation that probably didn't go the way it should have, or wasn't handled cordially.
Yeah.
But you still all have to go to Christmas dinner, right? Like, making sure that we have these structures in place and people have the right mechanisms to voice their concerns and also get their opinions heard, makes it so it functions better, and then everybody can, okay, let's deal with this issue, let's put it to bed, and let's move on.
yeah, and I fully agree. Like, just for Taylor and myself personally, I think our relationships working together and personally and family wise is going to be better because of this as well too, because when you bring an outside family member in, you all got to treat yourself like you're outside family members, really, and speak to the individual at like you're working with them in any other business, and not like they're a family member, and with the same level of respect that you'd want to get. So
Everyone's accountable for their actions, or what you don't do, I guess. And I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, because I think it's a terrible, I don't know what you want to call it. There is a term, dichotomy or maybe, but you should probably treat your family like the best people in your life.
Right.
But people have a habit of showing their family the worst,
Yes.
right? And so I think just whether it's the fact that, well, they're still giving me my family at the end of the day, they still have to love me no matter what. It's like, well, yeah, maybe that's true, but that doesn't give you the right to treat them certain ways, right?
Right.
So I think, and everybody's guilty of it, or at least everybody I know. And I think, and I'm certainly guilty of it. So it's something I personally want to be better at. And then this also gives the structure to be better at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really forces you.
yeah,
Yeah. And it gives you those skills. That's why I think it's important, and you three did this. You guys went and worked outside off the farm initially.
Me, not a lot.
A little bit of bear.
A little bit, yeah.
But, I think I recognized when I started having employees that I didn't have a lot of skills in that because I had never worked really anywhere. I didn't work in a corporate setting or anything like that, right? I guess you shouldn't say that.
Mhm.
And it's there's some great skills to learn
Yeah,
in those
yeah. You
situations.
learn most things just by doing them, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, this is good. When I saw this going on, I knew I had a pretty good idea you guys would set it up with a plan in place and a structure, and I was excited. And of course, passed the logo test, and now
Yeah.
I can't say how so important that is to me.
Yeah.
It was cool. Yeah, this has been fun, guys. I really appreciate you coming on and taking your time out of your busy fall. And
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate you having us, Trent.
yeah, I think there is I think there's a lot of experiences that be well received by other people listening to it, and a lot of people think if people think this can't happen,
Mhm.
and it's too difficult, but
Yeah, and I'm just I hate that word, honestly, and I'm always thinking about how we can do things, and yeah, we know we're gonna have our haters out there, but in the same respect, we're getting a lot of people that actually, hey, this is a good idea, so
We're just doing business.
yeah.
So is everyone else. So
yeah.
yeah.
I should clarify that came out wrong. I meant not this can't happen, but
Yeah.
a partnership of farms come together.
Yeah.
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 That's what I meant can't happen because it's
It's an oddity for sure.
an oddity, and it's 100 years later still relatively new.
Yeah.
But look at one of the best farm business models out there. What is it, right? It's like a colony, right? It's combined resources,
Yeah. Scale.
scale,
Yeah. And then,
diversity.
yeah. And I mean, this is the way we're choosing to go about this. Is it the only way? No. But hopefully, if people see this and go, okay, well, maybe that doesn't work for me, but think outside the box. There's going to be other options. If you want to grow your business, but maybe land's hard to come by or whatever, there's options out there. Think outside the box a bit. So.
Yeah, I do like it. I remember I was approached one time about farming together, and it's just a feeler conversation, and I was really worried about. I didn't even know what I didn't know. Like I didn't even know how to structure anything. We wouldn't have, I just thought this, and with my maturity level at that time, I felt I just don't have the ability to manage this properly, right? I was 30, so when I hear you guys are going through, you get Evan and Farmer Coach, and
Yeah, I'd argue that we probably didn't have that experience or know-how either, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
we found it, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't even know, you might not even know you need it
Exactly.
until
Yeah, like 4 years ago when we joined Farmer Coaching, I think separately we've all kind of thought of a different version of this idea at some point, and eventually it kind of came together, and this is what it turned into. But 4 years ago, we didn't think that this was going to be what it would turn into. We just, we both looked at Farmer Coach as just a way to better ourselves, or at least get some ideas out there, right? And learn from people who've done things differently. And it's not just Evan at the front of the room or his group now that he has. There's how many different farms in our group that we can talk to, and
Peer group.
it's a
Yeah.
peer group where we can bounce ideas off of guys because they've done it, and although that didn't work, maybe don't go down that route, or this is what I found was successful. And just being able to talk to people in a forum that's not judgmental, but let's just get the ideas out there and weed out the bad ones, and that's the most value.
yeah.
Well, and you know for yourself probably too that in your own little local farming area, farmers are just notoriously secretive.
Right.
They don't like giving up information, and that was something that we've always been like our two farms. We're very honest with each other right from the start, whether it be yields or marketing and how we do things and whatnot. So it was just that level of comfort that told us that, that this could work because we are trying to learn off each other and better each other.
Yeah, I think collaboration is generally better than being secretive or hiding things. And
Absolutely.
yeah. Doesn't matter if you're actually doing business together, even if it's just a neighbor. I mean, yeah.
Well, my peers back home who built large scale farm enterprises they were more receptive to working together and sharing information than I was.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that and you think, well, yeah, I could, yeah, it's just the right attitude to have.
Yeah.
Let's collaborate. Just always is better than competing.
Yeah, you
Help someone, they're going to help you back. And
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and you think, maybe, a lot of farmers think it's maybe losing an edge or something because maybe you're giving up your secret sauce or whatever it is. But, on a whole, we want our competitors to be better as well. It's just healthy for the industry, right? So.
Well, the more you give, the more you receive.
Mm-hmm.
It's that law of reciprocity. Like
Yeah.
if you show trust with someone and share something with them,
yeah.
human nature suggests that it's share something back with you, and it's just everybody wins.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, fellas, I enjoyed this. It was great.
Right on.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming by.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.